everyone, and welcome to the Daily Signal's Top 10. And today we're counting down the top news stories of the week, many of which have gone either misreported or underreported in the mainstream media. I'm Jenny Maltabano, and here with me to break all of this down is my colleague at the Daily Signal, Jarrett Stepman. He's also the co-host of the podcast, Right Side of History. Hello, Jarrett.
Hello.
Happy first weekend of May.
Yes, welcome to allergy season, everybody.
All right, kicking things off, first up we have Rudy Giuliani. He's caused quite a stir this week when he said the settlement with Stormy Daniels did not violate campaign finance law. But is he right? Watch this.
Having something to do with paying some Stormy Daniels woman $130,000, I mean, which is going to turn out to be perfectly legal. That money was not campaign money. Sorry, I'm giving you a fact now that you don't know. It's not campaign money. No campaign finance violation. So
they funneled it through the law firm.
Funneled through a law firm, and the president repaid it.
Oh, I didn't know he did.
Yep.
There's no campaign finance law.
Zero.
But then President Trump said perhaps Giuliani's just confused since it is his first week. Watch this.
He's going to be issuing a statement too, but he is a great guy. He knows it's a witch hunt. That's what he knows. He's seen a lot of them. And he said he's never seen anything so horrible. As an example, 33,000 emails requested by Congress with a subpoena, and they get burned, they get deleted, and nobody says anything. Give me a break. So Rudy knows it's a witch hunt. He started yesterday. He'll get his facts straight. He's a great guy. But what he does is he feels it's a very bad thing for our country, and he happens to do it.
All right, Jarrett, maybe a little bit of blame the new guy.
It was a little bit of an interesting situation there, and I of course, this whole situation kind of blew up in the media, and people say they were shocked to see Giuliani say this. But I think there was a really good piece that we had in the Daily Signal by Hans von Spakovsky, who's a legal analyst at Heritage, and talked about how this particular payment was likely not an FEC violation. It was an incident that took place 10 years earlier, was outside of the campaign laws. And look, I mean, it's potentially serious situation when you do have FEC violations. The Obama administration actually had their own for fairly significant ones during that time. So, look, it is a problem for the Trump administration that they're going to have to continue to deal with, and I'm sure CNN is going to continue running with the story 5 to 10 times a day, for sure.
I'm sure they will. They seem to definitely enjoy doing that. Hopefully, they figure out the legalities and move on. All right, next up, Sarah Huckabee Sanders took on CNN's April Ryan. Check this out.
So, Sarah, at this point, can you tell us definitively if the president plans to answer any questions from Bob Mueller, and if not, what is now in place here at the White House to go through that process of a subpoena, a possible indictment, a possible grand jury?
Again, those are all questions you would need to refer to the outside counsel.
Okay, well, now going to Rudy Giuliani. Did Rudy Giuliani do harm to the president today and last night in his conversations to Fox?
I don't believe so.
Sorry,
I'm going to take the last question like I promised to do.
Why didn't he talk to the White House press office about his impacting stellar statements about what was happening?
The White House press office wouldn't coordinate with the president's outside legal team on legal strategy.
You said yourself you were blindsided.
I actually didn't use that term.
Well, I said it, but you were blindsided from what you said.
Well, with all due respect, you actually don't know much about me in terms of what I feel and what I don't.
21 years to understand how this operates.
All right, I think we're good.
Okay, so I thought that Sarah Huckabee Sanders, as per usual, did a fantastic job in dealing with a very obnoxious sort of takedown, confrontational thing that April Ryan was trying to do here. What did you think?
Yeah, it's like what we saw kind of at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where she took, I think, even more abuse at that point and dealt with it very well and didn't overreact in the situation. Look, April Ryan has done this kind of stuff in the past. She aggressively asked at one point if the administration was for slavery at one point. So, she has to deal with all these situations every single day, and April Ryan has been very, very aggressive, and it is sometimes good for the White House press secretary just to shut somebody down who is not serious and asking questions that really matter to the American people.
And the job of the press secretary is so important. It's so difficult. I mean, every day she comes out, and her job is to try and express the president and the administration's policy priorities and how they're trying to do it. I mean, she's a lot on her plate. She doesn't need that additional kind of aggravation coming from April Ryan.
I agree.
All right, next up, Boy Scouts, they're dropping boy from their name. Okay, where is this going to head to next? I couldn't believe this.
I guess it doesn't really shock me given the fact that they've already had the policy where they'll let girls into the Boy Scouts. So, you know, we kind of saw this coming a little bit. It's still shocking, and I have to say, what does it say for the Girl Scouts? I mean, where does this leave the Girl Scouts right now? I mean, they've already had a kind of declining number of people joining, and I think this is a really sad thing. We had one of our colleagues, Daniel Davis, wrote this great article in the Daily Signal about how this is about a decline of masculinity in America. So, look, I think this is a very sad thing to drop this and muddle a once great organization.
Yeah, absolutely. What's next? All right, next up, number 7 is Last Man Standing coming back. So actor Tim Allen has kind of been alluding to this. We've talked about this show before. It was conservative and despite, very high ratings, was just kind of chopped off the air. And a lot of people were very vocal and upset with ABC. Perhaps Roseanne's success is prompting Last Man Standing to come back?
That does seem like it to me. The numbers were so incredible for especially those early episodes of Roseanne. You have to say that this shows that these programs that have a little bit alternative programming, where they show a conservative or somebody who's not a liberal from one of the coast in a positive light, people want to see that stuff. People want to see this kind of programming. And look, the bottom line is that the dollars make sense to a lot of these networks. If they see it's succeeding, they're going to say, well, you know what, maybe we'll give the show another chance.
Yeah, the appetite is certainly there for these kind of shows, so hopefully it does come back. I know a lot of fans would be very happy. All right, and on to number 6. Congress is calling for the Nobel Peace Prize for President Trump. Check this out.
Of North Korea and the leader of South Korea coming together would have been unimaginable just a few weeks ago. Frankly, the response from many in the media has been muted, and I think President Trump is showing that peace through strength is working, and the only reason that the evil dictator from North Korea is coming to the table is because this president has stared him down. And as peace comes to the Korean Peninsula, I do believe President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize.
So there you just saw Congress is calling for President Trump to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And it's not just some members in Congress. The South Korean president alluded to President Trump possibly receiving this as well. And I don't know if you saw, but some reporters asked President Trump about this, and he was very humble and just said, my goal right now is peace. I want to get this done. They've been trying to get it done for decades. That's my goal. That's my priority. And I thought that was a very healthy way of looking at this.
It was. I mean, he wouldn't be the first president to win a Nobel Peace Prize for an actual positive, successful negotiation. Theodore Roosevelt actually did as well at the end of the Russian-Japanese War in the early 20th century. It does say something, though, that the previous president won a Nobel Peace Prize for, well, not really sure, just being elected president and being in office. I think this award should go to somebody who's actually deserving. Unfortunately, it's been highly politicized over the years, but we'll see if the Nobel Prize Committee actually takes this seriously. It will be a very interesting test of where their political alliances are.
Yeah, and hopefully North Korea does release the 3 American prisoners, so that's something to certainly keep our eye on. All right, next up, the New York Times is celebrating Karl Marx, whose birthday is this weekend. Jarrett, you had a great piece out about this, talking about historical ignorance and how that can mess up our culture and our society. How do you even begin to tackle this?
I mean, this is quite unbelievable, but it's not the first time the New York Times has really been peddling this kind of pro-Marxist narrative. They actually had a section last year in 2017 that was 100 years of the communist revolution in Russia, and it is unfortunate to see so many pro-Marxist or pro-communist pieces coming out of the New York Times when you have a lot of historical ignorance about what communism is. A lot of millennials believe that socialism or communism are better than capitalism, and unfortunately the New York Times just fuels this, doesn't it, Ginny?
It absolutely does. I just don't understand how you can't appreciate capitalism when you see that the alternatives don't work at all. So keep an eye on that. All right, so next up, a college is changing its mascot from the Colonials to the Hippos. Jarrett, where do you even begin?
Oh, this is just incredible, and I think it shows the slippery slope that's involved with all these attacking of the statues, attacking of the mascots. I mean, where does it go? This is a colonial, something that should be fairly inoffensive. I thought it was very interesting that they added a hippo to this thing, which is, I think, is pretty hilarious. I mean, look, if there's one person on campus who says, hey, hippos kill on average about 3,000 people a year in Africa, isn't that offensive? I mean, hippos, they're very aggressive, dangerous animals. I think somebody's going to be offended by that, and by their own standards, well, the hippo's got to go too. We're just going to have nothing.
It's a slippery slope because someone could certainly say that, and those hippo killings are happening now.
Right now, as we speak.
All right, pro-Second Amendment students are staging walkouts. Watch this.
The students at Parkland and everyone who's walking out don't speak for all teenagers, all Americans. There are people who do strongly believe in the Second Amendment, and that we need to protect it, and more restrictions just isn't the answer. Rushing into a problem headfirst and saying banning guns, that's just not the solution.
Okay, so it took a couple weeks, but now pro-Second Amendment students are staging their own walkouts. You know, I think it's important to see that students aren't all on the left side of things, but I don't think the walkouts necessarily serve a huge purpose. Like they've made their statement and they're showing, now let's do real action, let's go lobby, let's advocate for legislation, let's act. But I did think that this was very cool to see.
It was. Of course, it didn't get a whole lot of press in the media. They were mostly focused on the anti-gun, the pro-gun control side of things, and that's, I think, what we have to expect. And yes, I think you're right that we shouldn't expect students to continually be going on marches, walking out of classrooms, things like this. Civics is not just about protests.
Right.
It's about a whole lot of other things. I don't think our schools are communicating that. And these kids are, I think, doing a good thing, actually standing up for rights instead of trying to take them away, which I think is true on the gun control side of the spectrum. So good for these kids. I hope our schools teach more than just activism. There's a lot more that goes into being a citizen in this country, and hopefully our schools do a little better job of doing that.
Absolutely. They deserve the same amount of coverage, so good on them. Next up, Kanye West has been banned from a Detroit radio station. Watch this.
It's what Kanye did by basically saying, think for yourself. If that's such a threat to the left, it demonstrates how the left has to use identity politics to shut down any real debate. Listen, I don't think that Kanye West ought to be nominated for head of the Heritage Foundation, right? I don't think the guy is spending his off hours reading Frederick Hayek. But what Kanye did say here, which is very simple, is listen, I'm not just a black guy, and I'm not just a Hollywood celebrity. I'm an individual with my own thoughts and feelings. I get to formulate my own logic, and I also get to figure out what I believe. And if everybody else thought like this, then perhaps we ought to be able to have these conversations that we haven't been able to have so far. Good for Kanye West for at least beginning the conversation. I mean, I'm stunned that it's Kanye doing it, but the guy gets all the credit.
Nice little shout out from Ben Shapiro for the Heritage Foundation. I think Ben was spot on. It's really cool what Kanye West is doing, advocating freedom of thought. Even as conservatives, it's important not to get totally attached to Kanye West, because clearly there are some liberal tendencies and it's not perfection. I think the bigger picture is more important, that he's creating this massive dialogue and the beginning of what looks like a cultural shift, perhaps.
Absolutely. I mean, just starting this conversation with a person like Kanye, who has an enormous megaphone that goes beyond what a lot of conservatives do. I mean, we talk about Hayek, we talk about these thinkers, but not a lot of Americans know who these people are. They know who Kanye is, and if he even starts to speak about these issues, more people will pay attention. Maybe they'll start to re-examine their beliefs. I think that's a good thing. Believe it or not, that actually is debate in America, and I think that that's a positive thing. It's too bad that some networks want to now stop Kanye from speaking just because of his now change political views.
Right, and a poll recently came out, black male support for the president doubled around the time that Kanye West came out. So this is all very interesting, and you're starting to see shifts. Okay, last up, Benjamin Netanyahu dropped the hammer this week. He made it very clear that Iran lied. Watch this.
Tonight I'm here to tell you one thing. Iran lied. Big time. After signing the nuclear deal in 2015, Iran intensified its efforts to hide its secret nuclear files.
All right, so this presentation blew me away. And it shouldn't be surprising, although some people on the left are either downplaying it or they're saying, exactly, that's why we did strike this terrible Iran deal. What do you make of it?
This was just absolutely incredible, especially the story about what Mascot, essentially this Israel special services, went in and essentially got these documents and files. I mean, it's something like out of a Hollywood movie.
It is.
And proved the fact that Iran has been lying about the particulars of the Iran deal and has made a lot of the people who backed this deal, especially in the Obama administration, look very bad, because we were promised, hey, this is going to stop the Iranian regime that we know is a very radical one from getting nuclear weapons. They had the secret plan to reboot their program. I mean, I think it's a really dramatic moment. Certainly, I think I would hope that American lawmakers see this and start to question the particulars of the Iran deal, that Iran clearly clearly wants to violate.
Yeah, they never really had intentions, it seems, of abiding by the Iran deal. And along with North Korea, Iran is definitely top of the news, so we need to keep an eye on that. All right, thank you for joining us this week. It's Cinco de Mayo, so we hope you have fun celebrating if you are. We'll see you back here next week, same time, same place. Have a great weekend.